I feel the spirit moving in me. I feel the spirit moving in me.
Well, there was a monk who lived deep in the rainforest. He loved all of nature. He treated all animals and plants with such care and such love. And he was way out in the rainforest by himself where nobody was around. And one night, there was a knock at his door. Now, mind you, nobody lives within miles of him. The monk opened the door, and outside stood a female monkey holding her baby. And she held it out and offered it to the monk. The monk took it, realizing instantly that the baby monkey was dead. The monk looked at the mother, and he could see the love. He could see the grief, and he could see the hope in her eyes. Perhaps she knew the kindness of this monk. Perhaps she knew that sometimes he left food out for other animals. Maybe she knew that this human being had some kind of knowledge, some kind of kindness, some wisdom to heal her little baby. The monk took the baby and held it for a while. There was nothing he could do. It was dead. He felt compassion for the mother as he held it with love. And then he offered the baby back to the mother. And the mother took the baby and turned and walked into the darkness of the night. I read that this is a true story. It's sad, and it's kind of cute, and it reminds me of how death can bring species together. It reminds me how grief and loss and death can bring us together with our families, with our friends. And it reminds me, too, that grief, when we experience it, can connect us with the essence of who we are. It's like we remember what's valuable in life. Experiencing grief, if we really experience it, helps us to connect with our higher self, connects with our deeper self, with the truth of who we are. This story reminds me of the importance of holding the things that we have lost. The people, the relatives, friends, acquaintances, and really holding them with compassion. And as we do so, we can be transformed by the love and the compassion that we experience. Here in the Unity on Maui community, we've experienced many losses in the last 2 years. I won't attempt to name all of them, but some that come to my mind are Reverend Mary, Jack Lau, Omar, Kurt, and most recently, Diane. And I know that many of us in our community and in the broader community have lost people in the last 2 years and have lost people altogether. Several people have left the island, like Kachina left the island, and I thought I heard that Jax left the island. And I'm sure you know of others. One of the things that we experience on an ongoing basis living on Maui is that people are always coming and people are always leaving. COVID dramatically changed our lives, didn't it? Changed the way we are and the way we live. You know, we take Unity Church on Maui, for example. Before COVID, we had 40, 60, sometimes 90 people here on a Sunday morning. Now we're looking at 10 or 20 or 30 seems like a high number these days. And our music program has changed dramatically. Just a couple years ago, we had Kurt and Ken and Kachina and the choir, and we had a dynamic music program. And things have changed. Now we have Virgie. And so, life is all about change, isn't it? And on the Maui in general, there's been many restaurants that have closed, and people have lost their jobs. COVID changed a lot. The world is totally different than it was a few years ago. And that's a loss. Many people have died of COVID, and that's a loss. And for some of us of a certain age, we're finding that our bodies are changing. And that's a loss. And you might be thinking, oh, well, yeah, of course, Rev, but let's talk about all the fun stuff we have. Let's talk about all the good stuff. Well, that is true. We want to remember the good stuff. What we're talking about today is celebrating loss. Because there's often the tendency in us as human beings to skirt right on by it, right? We don't like hurting. We don't like reflecting. We don't like grief and loss and sadness. We'd rather be happy, wouldn't we? But the transformation that we're about, the spiritual transformation in a huge way comes by celebrating the loss. Sadness is a typical symptom of grief. And sadness and love are intimately linked. When we're grieving, it's natural to feel sad. And I believe that it is essential that we feel sad. And you might say, well, why is that necessary? Why does the emotion of sadness have to exist at all? Couldn't we just move right through it? Experience the loss, experience the shock, and without accepting the pain in the middle and just move on to something new. But the truth of it is, sadness plays an essential role in our spiritual development. Sadness and spiritual grief, remind us of what we have. They remind us of the love that we've shared. It reminds us of the dear ones that have passed through our lives. And it reminds us of how we have loved and how we can love. We often remember the joy and the gratitude that we experience with other people. And I think that's the real value in loss, is to look at what we've experienced. And then in the same way say, wow, these things have gone. I enjoyed them. Maybe I should enjoy what is right here, right now, as much. Because one thing we understand about life is everything changes. There will be a day when we won't be here. There will be a day when members of our family and our friends won't be here. And so we want to celebrate. Sadness and loss is really the opportunity to look at our lives, to look at what's important, to embrace what we have right now. Sadness forces us to regroup, to reevaluate, to look at our emotions, and to look at our spirituality. Experiencing sadness and grief are stones on the spiritual path. And this talk is about how can we use sadness and grief to experience spiritual healing. Healing also mentally, physically, emotionally. and become stronger and healthier and more loving beings. Marianne Williamson wrote, "In every heart, there is an inner room where we can hold our greatest treasures and our deepest pain." Wow. So how can we use sadness and grief to enhance our spiritual journey? Well, the first thing we can do is set an intention to let ourselves experience it. And when it comes upon us, as it often does, and does this dance, that we agree to dance with it and not push it away. Allow it to be there. Even to sit down with it and say, okay, what can I learn from this? What does this sadness that I'm feeling have to teach me? I'm all ears. I'm open. I'm listening. Now, when we're grieving, we often get the idea to, I just want to keep going. And our society tells us this as well. Just keep busy. People say, oh, don't let it get you down, right? Keep a stiff upper lip. Keep moving forward, right? This too shall pass. I think that's a good one. But you hear people say, and I've heard it, maybe we say it ourselves, when somebody's hurting, we say, oh, don't cry. And often, it's interesting, there's a physiological thing that happens. Our impulse often is to touch somebody, right? And the reason we do that is it breaks the pattern. It breaks the pattern of them being in that sadness. And why do we do that? Are we doing it for them?
No.
Thank you. No, we're doing it for ourselves because we don't want to be in the presence of sadness. So we as a society have created all these ways to avoid getting in touch with the truth of who we are. Just push it on, right? Often when someone dies, we hear, or maybe we've said, oh, they're in a better place now. Really? How do we know that? We don't really know that. But it feels good to say that because in a sense we're saying, don't think about it, don't worry about it. What if we just said, oh, wow, you should really feel your feelings. You should really feel the grief. Oh, what a beautiful thing to feel sad. It's really beautiful. But we try and push it away, and we try and keep ourselves from experiencing, and we try to keep other people from experiencing. And the second thing we can do is to realize that sadness and grief are spirit calling us. Sadness and grief are the presence of God. It's our higher self saying, pay attention. Listen, feel what's going on. Don't run away. Spirit says, I'm right here with you. And you have this amazing opportunity to heal. Are you going to take it? Or are you going to run away from it? And the interesting paradox in all that is, if we don't experience the grief and the sadness, it's going to come up someplace else. It kind of goes, bloop, 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 and then it's going to come up bloop, 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 when we least expect it, right? And we think by chasing it away, we've chased it away. You can't get rid of it until you process it. And then it naturally goes away. We have to pay attention to grief and sadness because they're giving us gifts to help us advance spiritually. So we need to let go of the little mind that says, oh, just go to sleep. Oh, just don't pay attention. Instead, embrace it. Sit down with it. Have dinner with it. Have a cup of tea with it. because our natural inclination as human beings is to run away from it and hide from it. Carl Jung said, or according to Carl Jung, he said, soul work is the downward movement of the psyche. It is the willingness to connect with what is dark, what is deep, and not necessarily pleasant. Connecting with sadness and grief can be challenging, can't it? And it's unpleasant often, but I think it's the most meaningful and powerful thing that we can do. So the third thing that we can do to use sadness and grief to enhance our spiritual journey is to commit to our soul work, to commit to experiencing it. You know, you wouldn't be here if you weren't interested in doing your soul work, right? And what is your soul work? Your soul work is, it's about developing your consciousness, right? Consciousness is all about what we teach, what Unity teaches, right? Because we're looking at what? Our consciousness is our beliefs, our thoughts, our feelings, and what we express. This work that we do is all about lifting our consciousness, wouldn't you say? Becoming aware of the challenges in our life and then using those challenges to develop our spiritual truth. And, we use affirmations and denials and visualizations as tools to what? To lift our consciousness, to guide us, to give us tools on the path of spiritual enlightenment. Rumi said, the wound is where the light comes in. I believe that grief and sadness are states of our opportunities to sit in that wound. To really be in the wound, be in the hurt, because that's where our spiritual truth is, that's what our realization comes. So, committing to our soul work means that we practice regular meditation and reflection. And we look at what we're experiencing, we look at what we're feeling, we look at what we're believing, and we look at how is this working in my life? Am I achieving the results that I want to experience? Am I really paying attention? So committing to our soul work is really about practicing meditation. And I believe in active meditation, rather than just sitting and just being in the pleasantness of the moment. I like to ask a question. Like, I would like to ask, in using this, what we're talking about today as an example, okay, what does this grief and sadness have to teach me? What can I learn from this sadness? And it could be something as the importance of being present for those who are with me in this lifetime right now. What does this sadness and grief have to teach me? Another level of it might be, what expression of love am I here to experience? Why am I here? We can always, using love as kind of a fail-safe way to look at this, we can always experience more love, right? Everything is about experiencing more love. All that we teach, all that Jesus taught, all that the great masters taught is all about love. And if we can draw that parallel and say, okay, what does love have to show me in this? Practice meditation and reflection. And then the third part of that is then to take that information. If I'm here to experience more love, right, then I'm going to visualize what my life looks like when I'm experiencing more love, right? To actually take that and go, okay, so in a perfect world, my life is perfect. What is it that my life is going to look like when I am experiencing more love? And to actually visualize that. Be in that. What does that look like? What does that feel like? What am I doing in my life? Am I spending my time and my energy experiencing love? Another thing that loss and grief and sadness can teach us is that our life is short. You know, we're only here for a blink of the eye, really. Our time is limited. Are we experiencing the fullness of our life knowing that we're only here for a short time? What are our priorities? Are we spending time with those we love? Are we telling those we love that we love them? Are we being love? Are we holding on to resentment and anger and unforgiveness? Or are we present to the love that's here? So the next thing that we can do, the fourth thing that we can do, is to move from soul work to spirit work. Soul work is kind of the first level of what we're doing. This is what we spend in unity, in new thought, working on our soul, right? Changing the way, what we believe in, the way we think, the way we act, the way that we speak, the way that we are. That is soul work. That is about the development of our soul. It's about working on our individual consciousness. And that's a great thing, right? Many, many people never get any further than that. If we can perfect that, that's awesome, right? But some people may want to go to the next level, and that is spirit work. Spirit work is what we do to positively affect the consciousness of the world. It's kind of like we take our focus off of our ego, our beingness, right? This what we embody individually as spirit, this soul, and say, you know what, this is great. I've enjoyed working on this, and now I'm going to go up to the next level. And I'm going to start working on what can I do to contribute to the consciousness of the world? What can I do to make this world a better place that works for everybody? What can I do to be the best version of myself to help to create a world that works for everybody? You know, to move into that place, we really connect with our higher self, our spirit, our God self, our higher power, and we really focus not so much on doing what I feel like my body needs, but it's like, what does the planet need? What can I do to make a difference in the world? And it could be as simple as sharing love all the time, being the presence of love, being a loving listener, being a loving presence, not just being there in every moment to bring love wherever I am. And if I've got the gift of something that I can present that's going to lift others up in the process, I think that's what it's really about. Focusing on making a better world. Eckhart Tolle said, that which gives depth and purpose to living. And that's really what this is about, is really living on purpose. What is your purpose? Your purpose is beyond this. Your purpose is, what are you presenting to the world? What are you bringing about in the world to create a better world? What is your purpose? So, how do we commit to spiritual work? I think that it comes down to realizing that our spirit self is connected to the essence of all life. And to remember that all the time. And to create affirmations, spend time in meditation, and to visualize what that looks like. So we're impressing this being that we are with the purpose of acting that way in everything we do. So we could affirm, I am positively affecting the world. Feel the power in that. To be that presence wherever you are. I believe that the great masters, Jesus and Buddha and the great masters, that was their intention. They'd done their own work. Now they're out there to say, okay, I'm here for the world. And the second thing we can do in meditation is to ask, what can I do? What can I do to affect the world? How can I be the presence of love in the world? What is a need that the world has that I am gifted to share? That I'm passionate about it? That I'm going to make a better world? I'm going to be a part of that process. And then the third step, again, is visualization. And just to spend time contemplating that, reflecting on that, and visualizing you being that way in the world. So how can we use sadness and grief to advance spiritually? The first thing we talked about that is to allow ourselves to experience sadness and grief. Just be in it. Let it go. Let it happen. And the beauty of that is when we do that, it moves through us, right? There's something in our human thinking that thinks oh my gosh, if I embrace this sadness, I'm going to feel it forever. Right? Ever had that thought? But the opposite is true. If we allow it, bring it on. Let me feel it. And we really, I know I felt this with losing Omar, and I felt this with losing Kurt, and just bring it on. After a while, it's like this dark cloud comes over, and it hangs out for a while, and then it passes. And what it leaves in its wake is spiritual strength, power, love, the ability to be present. I think if we keep revisiting some sadness of the past, it's because we haven't fully experienced it in the present. Because if we don't, it's going to come back. The second thing we can do is realize that sadness and grief are spirit calling. It's your higher self saying, come, experience this. I have a gift for you. Let this in. And the third thing is to commit to our soul work, which we do, which is a part of what we do. Commit to my consciousness, your consciousness. And then to move from that to spiritual work. What is it? How can I use my gifts in the world to create a better world? And then to remember that our time is limited. We must do our spiritual work now, because this is the only moment we have. And then practice regular contemplation and visualization, prayer and meditation. I know in my life I've experienced healing by many names, many processes, through many understandings. And I've found that to truly heal that I must recognize my wounds and bear them by taking small steps in consciousness to be aware of them, to ask myself about them. Powerful healing happened in my life when I realized that I could look for clues for my healing in my sadness and my grief. I discovered that forgiveness of myself and others and letting go of resentments is huge. And if I don't work on it, it holds me back from being all that I can be. My healing started when I began doing my soul work 30 years ago, 40 years ago. And I realized that some of my life experiences have caused me to shield myself from the truth of who I am. True for you? We get hurt and we put up a shield. I'm not going to deal with that, not going to let that in. I'm not going to look at that. I had a broken image of myself, believing that I was broken. Because that's what the world often reflects to us. But I know for me, my healing was amplified when I began to discover my hidden wholeness. My healing was amplified when I moved from a place of accepting my brokenness to a place of knowing that my wholeness is my birthright. Wholeness is your birthright as well. Sadness and grief inspire me to live my life deeply and fully. Affirm that with me. Sadness and grief inspire me to live my life deeply and fully. I found this prayer in a Unity magazine. It's written by somebody in Silent Unity. Realizing my divine nature, I am healed. I release the belief in limited health or well-being. Instead, I turn my mind toward the knowledge of my divine nature. God's life is my life. I claim vitality and wholeness, strength and well-being. I heal by realizing my true nature and living fully, starting with this moment of conscious prayer. And I invite you to close your eyes and take a deep breath, breathing in. Breathing out. And just let yourself be consumed by this moment. By love. And connect with that inner place, this presence of love and spirit that's in the area around your heart. And to imagine that that is expanding. And that is your soul expanding. That is your soul connecting with every space, every thought, every cell, being transformed into light, into love. You might even imagine that this growth of love is coming out of what looks like a sore. coming out into the full fruition of all that you are. Let that be your visualization. To imagine this coming forth, bearing your strength, your love, your truth, your essence, your power. And hold that visual concept for a moment. Breathing in and breathing out. Gently and slowly invite your awareness to return to this moment. Embracing all that you are. And as your awareness returns, I invite you to open your eyes when you're ready.
Thank you.
Now I'd like to invite all of you to share your gifts with us as well. And as you share your gifts, I invite you to think about what it is you are here to bring to the world. What is it that is unique that you have, that you get to share with our planet, with our community, with your family, with your friends? And I hope that you'll consider that in this moment and also this week as you go through your week. And for those of you watching this on Facebook Live, you can donate to Unity on Maui as well by going to our webpage, which is www.unityonmaui.org, and click on the donate button, and you can make a safe donation there, or you can mail a check to us here on High Street in Wailuku. And thank you for your gifts. It is your gifts that are the energy that allows us to continue doing what we are doing, and thank you for that. And I know that as we give, we are fed in the same way because we become open to receiving the presence of God's gifts for us. So I invite you to hold your gift, and let's pray and affirm our prayer for prosperity together, which begins through a grateful, giving heart. My mind and life overflow with the abundance of God's all-providing, infinite supply. And so it is. Let's give thanks. Thank you, loving Spirit, for these gifts that have come to us with love. We hold them, we bless them, we give thanks for them, knowing that they move through this community, through this beautiful island, and out into the world. And we behold a world that's filled with love, with light, with joy, and with peace. And so it is. Amen. Thank you. All right, let's see. What do we have for announcements today? There's a sign-up sheet in the back. If you'd like to donate flowers on a Sunday morning, you can donate them to us or to Unity or to whomever you'd like, actually. And you can put that on the sign-up sheet of how you'd like the flowers to be recognized, and we'll recognize them, and then you get to take the flowers home. So and they do double duty on Sunday morning. So thank you for that. Also, Emily and I want to say thank you for the amazing time that we had at Nilo's. This community gave us a gift certificate to go to Nilo's. That was a gift to me for my 10-year anniversary being here at Unity on Maui. Woo! Wow. So we had an incredible 7 or so course meal of over 3 hours and 7 glasses of wine, I think, and a glass of champagne, which fortunately we split all of them. But we had an amazing time. The food is so good. In the center picture on top is it's halibut and lobster and an artichoke. And the halibut was this big, the piece of halibut, and it was absolutely the best halibut I've ever had in my life. So just want to say thank you to everybody who helped to make that possible. And Kealoha made sure we got there safely, and Uber made sure we got home safely. So thank you. We had a great time. We really feel loved and appreciated. And we have a continuing Course in Miracles class that's happening every Monday night. And the time, I think, is 4 to 5:30. Is that right? I can't see. And so it's happening right here, and it's a lively group of discussing the Course in Miracles. So come on down. It's a great way, great truth, great way to spend a Monday night. And also, we're looking for a volunteer coordinator. Kathleen has been lovingly doing this job for a few years. I'm not sure how many. 3? 4-ish. And she has decided that it's time for her to do something else. And so she would like to bless somebody with the great opportunity to be the volunteer coordinator. And what that person does is to coordinate a few of the jobs that are done here on Sunday morning, the audio people, the greeters, and the daily word, I think covers it, right? And so she organizes all that and sends it out every couple months so that everybody knows what their jobs are. And it's typically the same people do it all the time. That the dates change a little bit sometimes. So if you'd like to bless us by serving us as volunteer coordinator, please let me know or let Kathleen know. And also, we're having a new members class. A few people have come forward to say, hey, we want to join Unity on Maui. And so I'm going to give a new members class on Sunday, September 4th. That's 2 weeks from now after the service. Bring your lunch, and then we'll spend an hour and a half talking about Unity principles and what we believe. It's always an inspirational, fun time to get together and to share. So let me know also if you're interested in that. And we have started again our Thursday noon meditation, happening right here on Thursday for 30 minutes from 12 until 12:30. And come and check it out. It's a great way to get connected with your higher self, with Spirit in the middle of the week. And it's happening right here. And I don't know why that slide's in there, other than to remind us what we talked about today. So I hope you'll take these ideas that we discussed and apply them to your life. And I think that's about it. So why don't we stand? Thank you again, everyone, for being here today. And let's pray and affirm the prayer for protection, and then we'll do the peace song afterwards. So let's say it together. Together. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us wherever we are. God is. Thank you, Virgie. Thank you, Emily, on video. Thank you, Bob, on audio. Thank you, everyone else who contributes in all your ways.
Where I live, they're all raised.